What's going on, YouTube? Thanks for tuning into the channel. Welcome to Oh So Simplified. Coming to you with a video here about, is the American dream dead? So this is something that, if you're watching any portion of YouTube, has come up many times, many different circles that it could come up in. And I think I have a kind of like a unique take on this. So I'll jump right into it. But before that, like, comment, subscribe, dislike if you don't like it, leave some negative comments. If you didn't like anything, any feedback will do. All of it helps me. So appreciate it to everybody watching, commenting, liking, doing any of this such, subscribing. Appreciate it. Let's jump into this. So first, let's start with defining what the American dream is. So it's really the freedom and opportunity to attain a better life in America. Now, the first time that I really heard this was when I was watching videos on Ellis Island, as in the immigrants. I did a little bit of like cursory research on it right before like I decided to do the whole topic, just so I can get an idea. So it seems like it really came into like terminology in early 1930s. There was like some sort of book in 31 that came out, which is very interesting in terms of the backdrop of that particular time. But I'm going to extend it out into even like the early 1900s and things like that, maybe even the late 1800s, that, you know, a lot of people were immigrating to this country for the opportunity that they felt would be here in a more democratic, also capitalist society where, you know, basically like it was that idea that the streets were paved with gold, that you can come here and start a life. So that's really the definition. So first off, like, is it dead? Now, most videos you watch are definitely going to jump into the dead perspective. And then in a second, I'm going to get into the time period that they generally zoom in on. But I would definitely disagree with that. That I don't think it's dead. It's definitely changed. The times have absolutely changed since 1931 or the early 1900s, the 1950s. Times have changed. Things are different. It is harder in many respects. There's a lot more competition. Things cost a lot more. It's not like you can work for $1 a day and expect to end up buying a house for 50 bucks. You know, and then all you got to do is work, save 50 days worth of money, and then you can purchase a house. It's definitely not how it is. Back in the day, when you hear about the prices of certain things, you can see how that is definitely something that was true back in the day. Maybe not $50, but things being just so cheap, and the wage you're getting paid being able to equal up to the amount of really anything. But when we talk about the time period that they generally zoom in on, it's the post-war period, where a lot of the baby boomers were born. When they talk about the white picket fence to 2.5 kids, things of that sort, when the country was in extreme growth, is generally when you hear the American dream, that's what people are generally zooming in on. Now, there's many ways to look at this. Now, there are many ways to look at this. I'll jump into a few as I get a little deeper into the breakdown itself. But the main thing to understand is that the times are different. And if I were to just zoom into all of the times that I've already mentioned, like the 1900s, a lot of these immigrants, when they came here, they didn't come here with a super easy path to make it. I remember watching a movie called Gangs of New York. You know, in Gangs of New York, these people basically came, and this is earlier than the 1900s, because during like the Civil War times. Essentially, they got off the boat, were given a little bit of food, and then a uniform to fight in the military. That was like essentially when they got off the boat, at least, I mean, in a dramatic fashion, since it's obviously a movie. But that was the idea. It wasn't like they came here and just started getting all of this aid. A lot of the government aid that we have around now didn't exist in a lot of these times prior. Like in the 30s was where a lot of these social programs that we're used to, like Social Security, things like that, really started to get pushed during that period. And if you think about 1931 specifically and talking about an American dream, in a very short order, you can see how that American dream turned into like whatever American nightmare, because I remember reading about the Dust Bowls and the Great Depression, which happened in the early 30s, that is at this same period that the word American Dream was coined. And it wasn't like it was super easy for those people. And in general, in those circumstances, people were facing a lot of real hardships, in the sense of people not having enough to eat. When my grandfather tells me stories about growing up in the 30s and the 40s, it's like they were literally asking, like knocking on the door asking for sugar, which I don't really think that's the case for most people in America. I know some people might be in an international audience, so it's a different test case in that sense, but try to follow with me and resonate with what you can resonate with. But in those periods, it was very difficult. Then, in the 40s, during World War II, when we won, we basically entered this period of crazy growth, which basically started to really teeter off towards the late 60s and 70s. And this has become the view, definitely for my generation, which I'm 32, so I'm a millennial, I'm like one of the younger millennials. That is what America was for like almost like a long period of time, which it really wasn't. Like, America was not the America we think of until after World War II. And then honestly, it's been on a somewhat decline if you look at it historically since Nixon. Like, it's never really gotten back to where it was. It's just kind of, we've held off, and then now we're in kind of like a shaky time. And that's where my assertion would be, this is really the last chance to acquire the American dream. I personally think it's the best time to be alive. I mean, I'll get into that deeper, but I mean, as a black person, you know, when I start thinking about the 50s and before, in terms of the opportunity, wasn't really there. Now, everybody that's watching this isn't black, so maybe you have a different perspective on that part, but that's just like a little caveat to throw in there. But I really feel like this is the last chance if you're looking to have anything that's different than other people, because really the way things are going, there is going to be more and more social programs. I'm not somebody that's super like, they're terrible, it's the worst. But what it is going to do is essentially make the difference between the top and the bottom way bigger, deflate the money or inflate the money, so the worth of the money is less, like we see now. And your ability to jump the gap is gonna be wider, because every dollar is going to be worth less, so it's going to take more dollars to jump over. And this is really the last time, especially with all the technology that's disrupting everything. This is like the last chance, I feel, at least for a period of time in terms of ease, to really make that jump if you want to make the dream a reality. So that's the first point. So the next point is going to be really around what the pillars are. So I'm obviously saying that you can achieve the American dream. I mean, this is definitely the path I'm on, and I'm fairly confident I'm going to achieve it in the next couple years for myself. But let me break down the different pillars. So first is the financial pillar. Like, obviously you need money. I'm not one of these guys that's like super pie in the sky. I do believe in some like esoteric type thoughts and things of that sort, but I also believe in the fact that we live in a world and you have to interact with the material world, and not having money is going to hinder your ability to interact with the material world. You need money to live the life that you want, to have the experiences you want, to do the things you want. So I always will frame money within the scope of what I'm talking about. So you need to figure out, one, how you can make money, different ways you can make money and large amounts of money. The next piece is going to be creating your vision. So this is really how you want to spend your days, and what you ultimately want. So, you know, how much money is it going to take per month for you to live the way that you want, coming in every month guaranteed? How do you want to spend your days? You can't just spend your days picking your butt, sipping Mai Tais on the beach. That is not generally what's going to make a lot of people, you know, fulfilled and happy. There are things that you can do that are productive. It could be certain types of jobs, or a type of work. And then it can also be including your leisure time, your hobbies, things of that sort. So for me, I would love to just be a content creator, work, you know, 4 to 6 hours a day, and obviously work hard, sell products online, spend time training and fighting. If, in the future I can get a little camp of a few like high school, college age guys and whip them up into shape, whether they want to go wrestle in college, whether they want to go fight, that would be an awesome, dream to fulfill for myself. And then spend time working on my house, and then probably eventually having a family. That would be my American dream. Just having enough money to do that, fund that, then end up buying some additional investments so that I can have a few different properties that I'm renting out all around this area that is basically subsisting my lifestyle. And then all of the work I do is just basically out of the passion for myself, in terms of pushing this out to other people. And then obviously I'm going to try to make money through that. But that's really the vision of how I want to spend my days, what would make me happy. It's not like I need a Lamborghini, I don't need a Bugatti. It's very simple. And I think really this is the main piece, that most people don't even have this. And this is why they're running around like a chicken with their head cut off, because they either want to denounce money as being a main factor in getting things done, or they have no vision of how they actually want to live their life. They're just upset with the way they're living it now, but aren't spending the time to actually create an alternate vision to go by and go and get. And then that leads to the last piece, which is the execution. So this is you coming up with the plan to actually hit that. So it's like, how do you actually make the money to do this? How do you actually become, in my sense, a content creator? How do you actually start selling products? Well, you got to create products. Well, you got to create videos. You have to create messaging. You have to think of different ways to do this. And then you create this plan and you execute it. It's a very simple system, but simple doesn't mean easy. Oh, so simplified isn't that really asking for an easy life out here. So that's really the three pillars. The three pillars are just, one, understanding the financial necessity of what you're doing. That if you want to live the American dream, you want to live the life you want to live, you're going to need money. Come up with how much you really think that will be, all in all. After that, what you need to do second is have a vision. Understand how you want to spend your days. How does that look? What are you doing? As well as how much money is going to need to be fueling that vision. Then from there you execute. You create a plan and you execute on that plan to make your vision a reality. And if you do those three things, you can obviously come out of it and have what you want. Now this sounds like a lot of, now I'm sure to most people this sounds like, well, no shit, Sherlock, like I'm gonna come up with a plan, a vision, and execute on it. Well, remove the fact that, first off, most people don't have a plan. They don't have a plan. They don't have a vision. They're not, they're just living day to day, just getting by, just hoping that something falls out of the sky. So you just having a legitimate plan, you accepting the fact that you're gonna need abundant amount of money, and you're gonna have to work towards getting that in some sort of capacity or fashion, and you actually create a plan and work to execute the plan, it is going to differentiate you from the masses. Because this is something that I run up against sometimes. It's like, and I'm going to use a metaphor to really explain this. When I used to wrestle, when I first started wrestling, I started wrestling around 3rd grade. Then I kind of had to quit because my parents split up, and then in 5th grade, from 5th all the way through senior year, I wrestled. There was kids that were wrestling since they were 5, that have been wrestling for years when I started. And early on when we were young, you kind of stay neck and neck, but there was like a group of kids that just never got better, and it would drive me crazy because it would make me feel like, if I practice and practice and practice, will I like not get better too? Like, is there a way that I don't get this when I put in, going back to what I described, those 3 pillars, like, can I do the 3 pillars and not get it? But what I've really found, that when I've broken down why those people don't get better, it's because they don't actually have, once again, the vision. Like, there's no plan to get better. They're just showing up to practice. So just because you're going to the same job as somebody else doesn't mean they actually have a plan for their money. Doesn't mean they have a plan beyond that day. And then when you compound those types of thought processes and decision-making processes, it does create a huge delta which is why some people end up over here and some people end up over there. And it's generally not huge differences, it's small differences over time. Something that probably is imperceptible from a day or week perspective, but when you put those days and weeks together for a year, then you can see the difference between them. 5 years, 10 years, then you can see the difference between them. So that's just a caveat. If what I'm saying sounds like it's too simple and too easy to be true, that most people don't do it. And once again, it ain't easy. It's just simple, which just means it's short. And if it ain't simple, it's probably stupid. That's my mentality. So let's get to the last. So the last piece here is really just understanding that this is the best time to be alive. So as I mentioned before, I'm black. So for me, when you go back in the past, I think Dave Chappelle had a joke about this. It's like, it just gets worse and worse. Like, I don't even look at the 80s as like a great time, even though I've had, you know, more conservative friends tell me sometimes, they're like, yeah, the 80s, it sounds like it was so great. Or I had a girlfriend back in high school, and what was that movie? I'm getting off topic, but what was that movie with Zac Efron? It's like Hairspray or something. She goes, yeah, going back to that time seems like it would be so great. And I'm like, and she was a white girl. She was like, I'm like, yeah, like for you, I'm thinking in my head, maybe I brought it up. It's not like it would have mattered, but it was just like, I just used to think that was so funny. She kept saying like, oh, it'll be a great time. And I'm like, yeah, like, I mean, we wouldn't be working out that well back then, but I digress. But it's the best time to be alive. And from a financial standpoint, I think it's a great time to be alive because, you know, all the different avenues you have to make money. There's AI's coming in, so you don't really need as many different people. The proliferation of online content, you can create things online, make money online. The barriers to entry, you could just create a Shopify store, you can create a YouTube channel, you could do all of these things, you can run Facebook ads. You don't need to pitch all these other people to make it happen. You can really be a self-sufficient person. Now, with new advantages and new times come new challenges. So there are different challenges in the fact that, yeah, the barrier to entry is lower, but that's for everybody. So there's going to be a lot of competition. There's a lot of people that are going to be vying for it. The world has been globalized. You know, every college class I had exchange students that speak fluent English. When I've sold, many times I'm selling to people in India, people in China, people in Korea. So it's like everything's globalized, everything's competitive, but there's more resources at your fingertips, and there's a larger customer base you can sell to, because with shipping and all of this other stuff through the digital perspective. So it's really the best time to be alive. Yes, there are challenges. Yes, there are struggles that are different that our parents had to handle. However, you still have the same energy and gusto to figure it out in this time. And with every age, it has their own challenges. Like, if you really go back to the 30s, just because things were cheaper, and even if, let's remove like racism and stuff, like, I don't look at the way my grandparents were living and think, oh, man, I wish I just lived in that time, it would have been better. I don't look at my dad's generation and say that. I don't look at even my brothers who were born in their 80s, so they're like 10 years older than me. I don't look at their life like that. There's no other time I look at in life that's better than the time I'm living in now, with all of the struggles and all of the problems that I have. And I really urge a lot of you guys to look at your life that way too, in the sense not to just accept my conclusion, but like look at your life and compare it. Like, is there a better time for the life you're living? Would you have easier problems in a different time? And I really don't think that's the case for most people, because there wasn't as much information out there, and information can be great, but it also can allow you to see, you know, that the grass is greener on the other side, that maybe your aspirations would have been lower because you didn't have the knowledge, but then again, you might have figured out all the things you've already figured out at this point. Like, for example, me buying a house. If this was back in the day, unless I had a family, I probably wouldn't have bought a multi-family house. This is something I learned from watching Bigger Pockets and doing all this other stuff, that this was an option. A lot of the things I'm doing or because I know that that's an option. Where it's like back in the day, you might just get a job and try to stay at the job for 50 years because that's what you think you're supposed to do. My parents, my grandparents didn't have any hobbies. I have a hobby I'm very dedicated to that I just made a whole thing about it, feeding my soul. So, you know, put all that into consideration. It is a great time to be alive, and I think a lot of people are, taking the easy way out, and maybe it gets views, maybe it gets clicks, and yes, it is hard out there for everybody. But what's the alternative? What are you gonna pack it up and just take what's given to you, or are you gonna go with the last chance? Because when all this AI, all this technology gets out there will not be another chance. I firmly believe in that. That maybe not that there won't be another chance, but then it will really be hard. It will really be hard when there's the government's printing all this money and giving it out to keep everybody from revolting. Then if you want to move from everybody and just getting what everybody's getting, that government cheese, that's going to be really hard at that point. And that's the direction we're going, which is not a terrible thing, I think, all in all. But you need to be aware of what you can do to do it, and you have everything within your capacity at this very moment to have the life you live. It really just comes down to those three pillars of just understanding the financial need and defining that. How much money do you need? Having a vision of what you want in life, not just a vision of what other people gave to you. You don't need to be a millionaire. You don't need to have a Bugatti. You don't gotta freaking buy an island. You don't gotta move to Dubai. Think about what you ultimately want in your life, and that would make you happy in your life, and what it would take to support that life, and then create a plan, execute on that plan, and keep working to that plan until you get it. Because once you get it, what else do you need? And that's the position I've been in recently. It's like, if I could really figure out how to make 6 figures or more doing this, I won the dream. So that's it for this one. If you like the content, like. If you dislike, like, comment, subscribe, leave some negative comments if you didn't like it. Any feedback will do. And until next time, you know what it is. Peace.